Shalom, Israel. We'll be continuing with the 613 commandments, or Mitzvah, part 3. And we ended last time at Exodus 25:15. We'll get straight into it. Exodus 25:15. The stalls shall be in the rings of the ark, and they shall not be taken from it. Okay, let's go back 2 verses. And what they're talking about is the poles that go to the sides of the ark so that the ark can be carried. So in Exodus 25:15 it says, "And thou shalt make stalls of shittim wood and overlay them with gold, and they shall put the stalls into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them." And then it says 15, which is a commandment. "The stalls shall be in the rings of the ark, and they shall not be taken from it." Now, keynote: 1, the priest would only touch these things. 2, the ark does not exist. 3, there is no tabernacle. And 4, we're not in Jerusalem, so none of these things apply to us right now. We'll move on. Exodus 25:30. Exodus 25:30. "And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always." Well, in the tabernacle, there shall be a showbread table just for the showbread. And like it says, the priest shall have showbread on that table, or showbread, all the time. Well, of course, here we go again. There's no tabernacle. We're not in Jerusalem. So these things do not apply to us at this moment. Let's move on. We're going to go through a lot of things right now that's probably not going to apply to us right now in these times, because we're in dispersion. We're not in Jerusalem, and there is no tabernacle of congregation for us to do it in, or proper tabernacle in the homeland. Exodus 27, verses 20 and 21. "And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure oil olive beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always, in the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever until their generations, on behalf of the children of Israel." This is talking about one of these that would be in the tabernacle, and it is to burn always. Somebody is supposed to make oil out of olives, like olive oil, for it to burn continuously in the temple or the tabernacle. But of course, we don't have one, and we're not in Jerusalem where it should be. Let's move on to Exodus 28:4. "And these garments which they shall make, a breastplate and an ephod and a robe and a broidered coat, a mitre and a girdle, and they shall make holy garments for Aaron thy brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office." So, priests shall have special garments. I think that these things still should apply to the day, but I don't know that they necessarily apply strictly to Jerusalem in a tabernacle. Let's move on to Exodus 28:4. No, 28. We just read 28:4. We're going to go to 28:28. Exodus 28:28. "And they shall bind the breastplate of the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosened from the ephod." So there's a humongous breastplate that Aaron or his sons or the high priest will wear, and it'll be connected to the ephod by ribbons of blue. At the top, this breastplate will have two stones here, and the stones are engraved with the names of the Israelites. It'll have 12 down here, and it's binded by gold ropes. And well, this must not leave the ephod. It must not be able to swing around when you're moving. It should be firmly connected. But well, I don't think anybody can afford that much gold and jewels. Them things were humongous right now at this time. Let's move on. 28:32, Exodus 28 and 32. And there shall be a hole in the top of it, in the midst thereof. And it shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a habergeon. And it shall not, and it shall, that it be not rent. I apologize. Rent means ripped. Like this, ripped. When you got a garment, a priestly garment, it shouldn't be no sheet with a ripped hole for you to stick your head and your arms through. It should be professionally done like a shirt. Like a simple shirt, it should be professionally done so that it doesn't have rips in it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And there are some other verses that pertain to that, like Leviticus 10:6 and Leviticus 21:10. Like if a person dies in sin, you shall not overcome your head or rip your garment. Let's go back and look at that real quick. Or let's go forward and look at that. Leviticus 10:6. Leviticus 10:6. And Moses said to Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar his sons, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest you die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord had kindled. All right. What happened was Moses and Aaron went to the tabernacle of congregation, and they put an offering there, a burnt offerings, peace offering, and sin offerings there. And they blessed the people, and God appeared to the people, and fire came out and consumed up everything. And the people were just amazed, and they shouted, and they were happy. And they fell down and blessed and bowed to God. Now this happened in Leviticus 9 verses 20 through 24. Well, Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu took this as, oh man, we want the glory too. So they decide to put fire and strange incense on the fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. And the Lord consumed them in fire instead of their offerings. So this is Moses was telling Aaron, because when people died close to people, when people close to someone died, they normally ripped their clothes off, the sackcloth and ashes came on, they cut their hair, and what Moses was telling them, look, no. They did wrong. You can't do all of that because they did wrong. You can't have pity for them. Unfortunately, you can't have pity for them. So don't rip your clothes for that. Priests, especially as priests, you're not supposed to rip your priestly clothes. Let's go on back to Exodus 29 and 33. Exodus 29 and 33. And they shall eat those things wherein the atonement was made, to consecrate and sanctify them. But a stranger shall not eat thereof, because they are holy. So the priest must eat the offerings and make atonement for the people. but they cannot be fed to strangers because they are holy. That's self-explanatory. Let's move on to Exodus 30, 1 through 7. And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon, of shittim wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 squares shall it be, and two cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be the same. And there shall overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof, and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof. And thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make it under the crown of it, by the 2 corners thereof. Upon the 2 sides of it thou shalt make it. And they shall be for places for the stalls, to bear it withal. And thou shalt make the stalls of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the mercy seat, that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. And Aaron shall burn therein sweet incense every morning. When he dresseth the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. So, it's an altar that should be made to burn incense, and this is for the priests only. Now, this is something we can't do right now because we have no tabernacle, we have no ark, we're not in Jerusalem, so there are things that apply to this that make it so it doesn't apply to us right now. Let's move on to Exodus 30 and 9. Exodus 30 and 9. Ye shall offer no strange incense thereon, nor burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall ye pour drink offering thereon. We were just talking about this in Leviticus 10, when Aaron's sons burnt strange incense on the altar and were consumed by the fire of God because they were not supposed to. You just don't. And when that time comes, if we're to do it, you just follow the law as the law tells you to follow it. If you ain't supposed to burn nothing on it, don't burn it. If you don't know what to burn on it, don't burn nothing. We ain't got to worry about these things right now because we're in a dispersion, but when that time comes, you should know these things. Next, and priests should be only burning the incense anyway. Next, Exodus 30 and 13. This shall they give every one that passed among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half shekel shall be the offering of the Lord. A half shekel is a temple tax each year. According to the standards they say in Jerusalem today, half a shekel is about 30% of an ounce of silver. Ounce of silver is about $20. You divide that by 3, so I guess that's about maybe like $6.30, which isn't much. But hey, you're supposed to give what you're supposed to give as a temple tax. This isn't the offering. This isn't tithes. This isn't any. This is temple tax that should be paid each year. Next, Exodus 30 and 19. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet therit. When they go into the tabernacle congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not, or when they come near to the altar to minister, to burn offering made by fire unto the Lord. So as priests, before making an offering in the tabernacle, they ought to wash themselves. This is part of the custom that Muslims have taken on, that before they come into their mosque or before they pray or present themselves before God, they wash their hands and their feet. I mean, they literally put their feet in the sink. I mean, because they follow the laws of Moses, or much as they can, or what they claim. So this is one of the things that they picked up from it. Let's move on. Exodus 30 and 35. Exodus 30, 35. And thou shalt make it a perfume, a confection after the art of the apothecary. Oh, apothecary. And thou shalt make it a perfume, a confection after the art of the apothecary, tempered together, pure and holy. I had to go to the Zondervan's dictionary for this one. Apothecary, a word found in Exodus 30, 25, 35, 37, 29. 2 Chronicles 16, 14, Nehemiah 3, 8, Ecclesiastes 10, 1, in the King James Version. Although the Hebrew word it renders is more accurately translated perfumer, it is usually in the RV for the reference and is not to the selling of drugs, but to the making of perfumes. Okay, so it's a perfume maker. Okay. Tempered together, pure and holy. So, the perfumes that are for sweet spices of frankincense and other things shall be for the priest. And as for the perfume which thou shalt make, you shall not make to yourselves, according to the composition thereof. It shall be thee holy for the Lord. So this is strictly for God and the purposes of offerings, and not to be putting on you to smell good. Obviously, this stuff smelled great. Let's move on. Right, this was an anointing oil. Go back to Exodus 25, 30, 25 through 31. And of cassia 500 shekels. 25. And thou shalt make it oil of holy ointment, an ointment compound after the art of the apothecary. It shall be an holy anointing oil. And thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the congregation therewith, and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all his vessels, and the candlestick and his vessels, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his vessels, and the laver and his foot. And thou shalt sanctify them, that they may be most holy. Whatsoever toucheth them shall be holy. And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, this be an holy anointing oil unto me throughout your generations. So that's regarding Exodus 30, 35, and the priest's anointing oil. Let's move on to Exodus 30, 37, and 38, which I read already. And it says, and as for the perfume which thou shalt make, you shall not make to yourselves according to the composition on thereof. And it shall be unto thee holy for the Lord. Whosoever shall make like unto that to smell thereto shall even be cut off from his people. So if you got people running around wearing the holy anointing or to smell good, it should be cut off from their people. Plain and simple. Let's move on to Exodus 34 and 12. Exodus 34 and 12. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, whither thou goest. Let it be for a snare in the midst of thee. So, You got to be careful breaking bread with idolaters, because you could pick up on their idolistic ways, or what it pretty much saying is just don't eat and drink with them. Just keep yourself away from them, and you don't have to worry about picking up their habits. Let me say it like that. You hang around a person long enough, you pick up their habits. So, a reference for this is 1 Corinthians 5 and 11. 1 Corinthians 5:11. But now I've written unto you not to keep company, if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such no, not to eat. So it's pretty much telling you, stay out of the congregation of sinners. We've heard that one before. Let's move on to Exodus 34 and 21. 6 days thou shalt work, but on the seventh day thou shalt rest. In airing time and in harvest thou shalt rest. And thou shalt right. 6 days thou shalt work, but on the seventh is the Sabbath. No work. No work. You should not be working, specifically working for money. Your trash is overflowing in your house. Take your trash out. Don't be unclean, But, don't go to start scrubbing the trash can down and scrubbing your floors and working on the house, doing things around the house. And no, do what you need that's necessary, that you would do on a regular basis as necessary, but you can't do work, especially work that gets paid. Most jobs respect the Sabbath. I'm handicapped and I just got a job and they respect my Sabbath. I told them at the interview that I won't work from Friday night to Saturday night. And if you have a problem with it, you don't have to hire me. And I got hired because they respect my Sabbath. All you have to do is tell them, and they normally respect it. If not, God will provide you another job. Let's move on. Exodus 34 and 26. A little uncomfortable. The first of the fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in its mother's milk. All right. You're supposed to bring the first fruits of everything, like especially if you're a farmer. This is normally provided to people who had they had farms that had crops, that had cattle, and they would bring first fruits as I guess consecrations to the Lord. And of these first fruits, you had cattle, and there was a custom. This is also providing that there was a custom where they would take and cook the baby or the firstborn baby of the cattle and milk from the mother as a fertility ritual. And they're basically telling you to not embrace the rituals of the nations. You got some places that still do this ritual to this day, and they went even further. You got these Chinese people right now. You can look it up on YouTube or Google, wherever, that are actually cooking fetuses, human fetuses, and eating them as a fertility ritual. This is nasty. This is an abomination. Please do not participate in these things. Now, You'll have Jews that have went so far as to say they won't have cheeseburgers because cheese is dairy and the burger is meat. And the two are to be cooked together in their book. And they say this is not to be seethed in. And normally, let's look up that word seethe. I had to go to my Strong's Complete Dictionary on page 226. Seethe, S-E-E-T-H-E, Hebrew word bashal, is to boil. So ain't nobody boiling burgers and cheese, so I think this is specifically like a soup that they were making back then for fertility rites, because seethe means to boil. So it can't be specifically talking about cheese. It would have to be talking about milk. Let's move on. Exodus 35 and 3. Yes. Exodus 35 and 3. Ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. That means you're not supposed to be cooking on the Sabbath. He's giving you Friday early day to create double portions, which means to prepare enough food to last you till Saturday. You can leave it out the refrigerator. It'll be good. Trust me. God made it that way. That you should prepare all your Sabbath food on Friday before the sun sets. Once the sun sets, then the Sabbath is here. And it has not gone until Saturday when the sun sets. Let's move on. We'll be going to Leviticus 1:1-4. And the Lord called unto Moses and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will, at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him. So this is pretty much saying you shall offer a meat offering with specific purposes. Every offering has a specific purpose. And these are the rules of which shall be offered and how it shall be offered. Let's move on. Leviticus 2:11-12. No meat offering which ye shall bring unto the Lord shall be made with leaven or yeast. For ye shall burn no leaven or any honey in any offering of the Lord made by fire. As for the oblation of the first fruits, ye shall offer them unto the Lord, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for a sweet savor. So it's pretty much telling you there should be no leavening or yeast or honey in any offering. Period. Now, right now these things don't apply to us. Why? Because we don't have a tabernacle and we're not in Jerusalem. Let's move on. Leviticus 2:13. And every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt, neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. So, I forget exactly what it's called, but there was a Jewish tradition where they would put the salt on the bread before they ate it, Well, they're just following what the commandment said because it's a type of offering. But we don't have a tabernacle. We're not in Jerusalem. So we're not making those type of offerings right now. Now, you can practice these things. You know, I'm not saying that you shouldn't practice them to get used to them, to know how to do them right, if and when the time comes that is a tabernacle in Jerusalem and you have the chance to do it. But you should not make these things official. Let's move on. Leviticus 4 and 13. Leviticus 4 and 13. And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance, and the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty, when the sin which they have sinned against it is known, when the congregation shall offer a young bullock for the sin, and bring it before the tabernacle of the congregation. And the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands upon the head of the bullock before the Lord, and the bullock shall be killed before the Lord. And the priest that is anointed shall bring of the bullock's blood to the tabernacle congregation. It'll go on, but this is basically telling you that priest offers sin offerings if the communities make errors in judgment. Let's move on. Leviticus 4:27. Leviticus 4:27. And if any one of the common people sin through ignorance, while he doeth somewhat against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning the things which ought not to be done, and be guilty, or if his sin which he have sinned come to his knowledge, then he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he has sinned. So, if someone sins by mistake, you must make a sin offering. There is no offerings for intentional sin, because normally if you sin intentionally, then you're either killed or you kicked out of camp, plain and simple. So for unintentional sin, you must make a sin offering. Let's move on. Leviticus 5:1. And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness whether he have seen or known of it, if he does not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. So, you shall testify if you are aware of something bad. If you know about it, or if you heard it for your own self, then you're supposed to tell specifically the judges set before you, and you're supposed to give this person up. Friend, family, foe, child, doesn't make a difference.